Hey guys, look where we're at here at SuiteWorld 2025 in Las Vegas. We are excited to share some new episodes with you that we recorded here live in SuiteWorld in Las Vegas, talking about AI and innovation and what CFOs can do to be better leaders in this organization. So we're so excited to have you here, so stay tuned for some great episodes. I was looking at, you have a very impressive career path.
Oh, thank you.
And I was wondering if you could share a little bit about what got you into accounting and what's your passion about?
So oddly enough, I started off thinking I was going to go to law school. But I grew up very poor. I was emancipated at 16, so paying for and dedicating that many years just really weren't going to be in the cards. So I took my first accounting and finance class back when you used to be able to do that without declaring it as your life mission, and I fell in love. It was something for me that just clicked, but it wasn't the numbers that clicked for me. It was that I saw how strategic it could be, that I could build and really create something. And I made the decision to not go into, at the time it was the Big Eight.
Big 4, Big 3.
Yeah, exactly. It was a Big 10 when I started. Yeah. I wanted to work for a smaller firm. I wanted to learn more. And so I had that great opportunity. So I got to learn everything from, your basic financials all the way through to tax, sales tax, all these things. And I just thought, wow, like this is bitchin'. I love this.
Yeah.
And with that, I got my CPA and all that good stuff, and really wanted to figure out how I was gonna make that into a career. And I found my first startup.
Wow.
And that changed the trajectory of my life in a moment, because I really got to be a part of a growth story from the beginning.
Okay.
It was a medical device company. We ended up scaling quickly, taking the product to market. We bought another company, so I got to be a part of that process. We started down the path of going public, and so I got to do all of that, like amazingly hard work, but really understood the value of the day-to-day compliance and considerations you have to enable you.
Yeah.
So that role, I think, more than anything else, really taught me the value of my mantra: measure twice, cut once.
Yeah.
Right? Be thoughtful as you make plans, as you do things, and not be about just today. It's got to be about the future as well, because otherwise you're just going to rework it.
Sure.
Right? It's either more expensive, more time, like all those sorts of things. But if you take a moment and think strategically in the onset, even if you don't know everything that's going to happen, because it's impossible, at least you build in for those potentials, those possibilities. Because I think that's what happens for a lot of people, is they get very pigeoned because they don't take the time to really strategically think about it.
Did you have any mentors as you were coming up and to help guide you toward the leader that you are today?
I was brought up from a career perspective at a time where there were very few women, and the women that tended to either be the barracuda or the pushover, so I learned from them of what I didn't want to do. But I ultimately have had a number of really great mentors. All have oddly enough been men, as opposed to, which is a little sad, but it's also what ignites me to be a mentor for others. Mentors for me were very different, right? And as I was saying, these men really created opportunities for me because I went after them. I wanted to know what doing business development was. How do I get more involved in that? How do I bring my strategic finance capabilities into that part of the world? And so I had a head of BD that worked, and he welcomed me in, and I got to start looking at deals and figuring out why we were a very large, medical device company. And so we had a lot of opportunities for, people wanting to sell us their stuff. But we were also looking at sometimes and proactive versus reactive. And he was the first one that really was just like showed me how much more being an accountant could really be. And I think then that drove to the next, opportunity. And then I had an incredible CEO who had been a CFO for most of his career, that again showed me what was possible, and that the standard expectations were just that. And that doesn't mean it needs to be me.
Yeah.
And he was who gave me my first CFO role. I took the job, director of finance, for 3 months, and at the end of the 3 months, they said, "You're the CFO. We don't need to look for anybody else. You've got the job."
That's amazing.
And it was really great. Yeah.
So what is your, because as I've talked to different accounting leaders, everybody has their own kind of like leadership philosophy. You already said cut once, cut
Measure
once,
twice.
measure twice. But how would you describe your leadership philosophy, especially in the accounting world?
I really think about it really from a team perspective, culture fit. I want to pay it forward. And I want, if everyone loved their job just 50% the way I love mine, imagine how great the world would be. And so I want them to have that passion, to find it, but more importantly, to be willing. I have to be willing to work to help them find it. I can't do it for them, but I can certainly help them figure that out. And I think a lot of times leaders tend to get caught up in this path is what you're supposed to take, right? You're in accounts payable, therefore you're in starting accounts receivable. Therefore, no, my path was not a straight line. I did lots of zigs and zags of different roles and opportunities and industries and full-time consulting. So why should they have to stick to a certain path? Let's figure out what's interesting to you. What does excite you? What is it about your current role or different things that maybe we are not doing today that we should be doing? And then how do I help them not just move toward to reach those goals, but give them time to spend to learn, right? It's about, great, it's a new skill set. You're not going to just know it. You've got to learn it, right? And whether that's me supporting them and teaching them, whether that's going to classes, whether that's, doing something that's going to help them, and they have to have the time to be able to do that, right? We have to have some balance. And yes, this is part of your career, and I'm not suggesting, well, you only work 8 hours a day every day. No. So yes, maybe you're taking 2 hours out of this day, but they need to know that they've got permission, that they're empowered to do it. That it's an expectation to help them grow. It helps them, it helps me, it helps our team, it helps the organization.
So what's it like building that type of a culture? Because it's not easy to have that type of a culture, because corporate America is very much like, you have to do all these things and no matter what, bottom line, that's it. And so like, how is it building that type of a culture?
It really starts at the top, and it sounds very cliche, but cliche is that for a reason. The reality is that when I go into an organization, that is an expectation I set right off with my CEO.
Okay.
This is what's important to me. This is how we're going to build a great team, a great organization, right? And to be able to do all the things that you want us to do. I need to be allowed to do my job, which means I need to be able to empower my team to be allowed to do theirs. And so it's got to work, right? They have to respect that they are being given this time, this effort, money to cover classes or whatever the thing may be. They have to want it more than me for themselves. And if we can do that, and then you show the value of that, it becomes very obvious. And then next thing you know, other leaders are looking around going, huh, that back office team, they've got their stuff together, right?
Yeah.
They're really making a difference. And you see it by promotions, by career development opportunities. Those team members then are more willing to reach across to other parts of the organization, to educate, to work with, to support. And now you've got a collaboration, and then that becomes really a foundation across the entire organization.
Yeah.
Over time, obviously, it's not going to be quick, but I've seen it, and I've been able to really help establish that expectation. I only hire in if you're going to meet, you got to be hungry. I don't want you to want a job. I want you to want a career.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do everything I can to help you get there, as long as you're doing everything you can to help you get there.
Okay. I like that. I like that philosophy, because it's a lot of times you go into a team and you're struggling to, I have to like find this little time to upskill myself, and there's not that culture of growing and to be able to establish that. I commend you for that.
Well, yeah, I appreciate that, but I don't understand why it's commendable. It should just be the way it is.
I agree with you there.
Right? It's like this SuiteWorld, right?
Yeah.
There's 11 of us here this week.
Wow.
And it's a big investment. But you know what? They're really worth it. And if I invest in them, they're in turn going to invest in me, invest in the organization. Everybody wins. Everybody gets something out of it. And I don't think enough companies, especially in the back office, because we are the frugal ones and having to be conscientious of the spend, we don't give ourselves that budget and that opportunity. And we need it just like any other part of the organization does. And I think, it's like, don't be a martyr. Like, well, we've never been on a, whatever. No, that's a shame.
Yeah.
Invest in your people. There's a lot of ways that you can do it inexpensively, over time, right? They earn it. Give it. Share it, right? And I think ultimately there's just not enough people, especially in senior leadership positions, when these young kids, these days are asking about balance. Well, that is a big part of how you help them achieve that balance.
Yeah.
Because if they see that they're getting something personal out of it, they don't think of it as work the same way, right? And if they're happy at work, the number of hours they are working no longer becomes a competition about the number of hours they're not working, because they love it, they enjoy it, they're getting something out of it. So it naturally makes them, in a better mind space altogether. Therefore, balance is in fact achieved.
Yeah. Well, and I think it was yesterday or to this morning, I was flipping through LinkedIn, and Simon Sinek posted, we won't grow as people unless we feel safe at home and safe at work.
Yes, I actually just finished reading that book.
Yes. But like that's a philosophy. If you don't feel safe at work, that culture that you're describing, that creates a safe environment to say, yeah, I can grow, I can fail here and grow from that, as opposed to, oh no, if I fail, I'm going to get fired.
You know what? That is a great point, and I've actually had this conversation very explicitly a couple of times over the last kind of few months, especially because I really am pressing my team to fail. I want you to reach. I want you to be challenged. And it's okay to say, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's okay to not have all the answers at the moment that you're being asked. Whether it's my NetSuite administrator who's got somebody banging on his door, I need you to do this for me right now. I will get to it. I need to think about it before I can just give you an answer. I'm asking people to do tasks and have ownership over responsibilities that the company's really never had to have before. Yeah. As we've gone into retail now, the complexity of our business is so different than it was really even 6 months ago, that, it's different skills. It's different work, product that's being asked. And I've got this incredible team who's just like, bring it on. that's awesome. I want to learn it. I want to do it. I want to do what it takes. And I've been so impressed with them. And, they are going to be part of my legacy of future CFOs of the world one day, and, I got to help them do that. That's pretty awesome.
That is pretty awesome. I love that. So we can't have this conversation without talking about technology.
One of my favorite topics.
One of our favorite topics. You were just in the keynote yesterday talking about, how the AI and everything is changing as you're working with NetSuite. So maybe we can talk a little bit, how is AI changing how your team is, how it's being formed? Because it can't look like it did 6 months ago, just like you said.
No, it can't. And that's the interesting part. And I think I was mentioning this even in the keynote, which is, with this many team members, we came with goals. While you're here, you need to go look at this, and I want you to figure out that, and we then come together and roadmap and after that first keynote, I thought, well, that's out the window. We're going to have to rethink this entirely different way. And I think that it's great. It's exciting. I've got a little nervous. There hadn't been a whole lot of news coming out of anything really big and new from NetSuite for a while. So I was like, this is game changing. Okay. And it really goes to my philosophy, which is I don't want task people. I want critical thinkers. Yeah. And by utilizing AI, by having some of these workflows and processes and other things that can help spend less time keying and more time thinking, and then doing something with the data, with the information, less time building the data, more time actioning the data. So for my team in particular, the timing is excellent because this is the team we're building, and we've been building this team for about a year and a half that I've been with them, and we've moved people into different roles. We've got some great promotions for people. We've added a couple of folks in with the goal that we are doing that. We are bringing in AI. We are putting in suite apps. We are putting in bill capture. We're doing things that make it so that there's integrations to do the key punch. There's not value in the key punch just to get it in the system. There's tools that can help you do that now. So great, let's invest in those tools. And then now I want you to take that information and what are you going to do with it? How is it valuable? What does it tell us, right? And I think that's also the expectation of today's young people coming out of that first job, that second job. They want to think. They really want to add value. And hopefully it makes accounting sexy again.
Yeah, I hope it does. I really hope it does. And I like that idea of I want to take, you're taking them, you're giving them this toolkit so that they can be strategic thinkers. Because there was a study out of MIT saying that the AI is killing our strategic thinking because we're using it so much. Instead of using it as a tool, we're using it as something else. So that philosophy that you have, it's really going to change the way it looks. Because as a CFO, you've been a CFO a number of times. The way your team looks now is completely different than it's looked in the past.
It's a complete 180, right? You had to have that lifelong AP person. Yeah, you had to have that lifelong AR person. And your FP&A manager had to have certain types of skill sets that were very different than what we need them to be today. Yeah. And so it's not just a role that's changed, it's the entire team. It's the construct of them, how they work together and how they work across to the other parts of the organization. Because with AI especially, you can't be siloed. It forces you to break down those siloed walls. Yeah. Because what somebody's doing in marketing has a direct effect on, and if you're not building your AI tools to be across your organization, you're going to end up with bad information, bad data. You're going to not make fully aware choices and decisions because you're too siloed. It has to be across.
So what advice would you give to CFOs who are listening to this conversation and saying, I want my team to be where your team is? What should that first step be to walk in this direction?
Mean what you say and say what you mean. I think that's the biggest thing. It's great to throw out ideas and, oh, I'd love it if, and it'd be great. Why don't you? You have to action it. You have to show it. You have to be willing to not just have the conversations and tell them that they should do something or put a goal on a piece of paper at the review time. You got to check in with them. Are you doing this? How are you doing this? How, what are the classes? What are the training? What do you need in order to do that? And then you need to make sure that it has to be a priority for both of you. Yeah. Because it is really easy to put something on the paper at the review, 6 months later, year later, well, did you do it? Oh, nope, right? And I think accountants, back office team members tend to also like, oh, well, I there's so many other things that I should have done. I didn't really want to put the time and take the time away. No, it's required. Yeah. And if you mean it, right, then they will, and then you naturally start to just build that culture just by meaning what you say and saying what you mean.
That's awesome. I really appreciate that. Well, Kimberlee, thank you so much for coming on the Count Me In podcast. I really appreciate you sharing your insights with our audience.
Absolutely. It was great. Thank you.
This has been Count Me In, IMA's podcast, providing you with the latest perspectives of thought leaders from the accounting and finance profession. If you like what you heard and you'd like to be counted in for more relevant accounting and finance education, visit IMA's website at www.imanet.org.